Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to 14 Stars Islamic Center. For tonight's program, inshallah, we're going to start the program with the recitation of Quran, chapter Fatir, Surah Fatir, from the beginning, page 434. 434. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله فاطر السماوات والأرض جاعل الملائكة رسلا أولي أجنحة مثنى وثلاث ورباع يزيد في الخلق ما يشاء إن الله على كل شيء قدير. ما يفتح الله للناس من رحمة فلا ممسك لها وما يمسك فلا مرسل له من بعده وهو العزيز الحكيم. يا أيها الناس اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم هل من خالق غير الله يرزقكم من السماء والأرض لا إله إلا هو فأنى تؤفكون. وإن يكذبوك فقد كذبت رسل من قبلك وإلى الله ترجع الأمور. يا أيها الناس إن وعد الله حق فلا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. إن الشيطان كان لكم عدوا فاتخذوه عدوا إنما يدعو حزبه ليكونوا من أصحاب السعير. الذين كفروا لهم عذاب شديد والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير. أفمن زين له سوء عمله فرآه حسنا فإن الله يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء فلا تذهب نفسك عليهم حسرات إن الله عليم بما يصنعون. والله الذي أرسل الرياح فتثير سحابا فسقناه إلى بلد ميت فأحيينا به الأرض بعد موتها كذلك النشور. من كان يريد العزة فلله العزة جميعا إليه يصعد الكلم الطيب والعمل الصالح يرفعه والذين يمكرون السيئات لهم عذاب شديد ومكر أولئك هو يبور والله خلقكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم جعلكم أزواجا وما تحمل من أنثى ولا تضع إلا بعلمه وما يعمر من معمر ولا ينقص من عمره إلا في كتاب إن ذلك على الله يسير وما يستوي البحران هذا عذب فرات سائغ شرابه وهذا ملح أجاج ومن كل تأكلون لحما طريا وتستخرجون حلية تلبسونها وترى الفلك فيه مواخر لتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل وسخر الشمس والقمر كل يجري لأجل مسمى ذلكم الله ربكم له الملك والذين تدعون من دونه ما يملكون من قطمير إن تدعوهم لا يسمعوا دعاءكم دعاءكم ولو سمعوا ما استجابوا لكم ويوم القيامة يكفرون بشركائكم ولا ينبئك مثل خبير يا أيها الناس أنتم الفقراء إلى الله والله هو الغني الحميد صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أحسنتم حاجاكم جزاكم الله خير. Brothers and sisters, now we move to the poems and marsias. I have Brother Taimur. We have a marsia to share with us. Brother Taimur, you want to stay there or is صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
करबला से जो कभी हो के हवा आती है किसी मासूम की हिचकी की सदा आती है करबला से जो कभी मासूम
समझती है दुल्हन लाऊंगी, आया है शबाब। माँ समझती है दुल्हन लाऊंगी, आया है शबाब। शह समझते हैं कि अकबर की कज़ा आती है। करबला से जो कभी हाँ धड़कता ना हो मरकद में कहीं कल्बे रुबाब। हाँ धड़कता ना हो मरकद में कहीं कल्बे रुबाब। अली असगर की सदा आती है। करबला से जो कभी कौन सोता है किनारे तेरे ऐ नहरे फुरात। कौन सोता है किनारे तेरे ऐ नहरे फुरात। तेरी मट्टी से अभी बूए वफा आती है। करबला से जो कभी कोई बीमार न पड़ता हो तहज्जुद की नमाज। कोई बीमार न पड़ता हो तहज्जुद की नमाज। रात को बेड़ियों की क्यों ये सदा आती है। करबला से जो कभी हो के हवा आती है। किसी मासूम की हिचकी की सदा आती है। करबला से जो कभी
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ahsant akhi brother Taimur, jazakallah khair. Now we have brother Hassan Faiz. He prepared a poem for us. Bismillah Hassan, if you are ready.
Muhammad wa ali baiti Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
This Farsi poem indicates that on day 1 in Karbala, Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam introduced the plain of Karbala and explained to his companions about the coming events and hardships. ألا يرون من ميعاد توحيد والاستنجاء. ألا يرون من ميعاد توحيد والاستنجاء. بدأ بدنها غرق خون، سرها جدا از پیکر است اینجا. ملک قرآن بخوان در خاک روح انگیز این وادی، که 72 گل از باغ عطرت پرپر است اینجا. نیازی نیست گل ریزد کسی در مقدم مهمان، که صحرا لالگون از خون فرق اکبر است اینجا. مگر نه در نماز عشق می باید وضو از خون، مگر نه در نماز عشق می باید وضو از خون. وضوی من ز خون حلق پاک اصغر است اینجا. شود جان عموی همچو من قربانی قاسم، که مرگ سرخ بر وی از عسل شیرین تر است اینجا. شود هر مشکلی به آبی اطفال معصومم، شود هر مشکلی به آبی اطفال معصومم، که سقا با دو چشم خونفشان آب آور است اینجا. نه تنها از تن مردان جنگی سر جدا گردد، بنوکی نیزه طفل شیرخوارم را سر است اینجا. مبادا کس در این صحرای خونین نام آب آرد، مبادا کس در این صحرای خونین نام آب آرد. جواب العطش شمشیر و تیر و خنجر است اینجا. الهی الهی جفت زهرا پای در گودال نگذارد، که کعبی نی جوابی یا اخای خواهر است اینجا. عجب نبود در ابنای بشر گریان خون بر من، که از خون گلویم رنگ موی مادر است اینجا. که از خون گلویم رنگ موی مادر است اینجا. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you, brother Haj Hassan. Jazakumullah khair. Now, inshallah, we will listen to Haj Akram Jawad. He has a poem to share with us. Bismillah, Haj. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This poem from Khazar al-Du'b al-Khuzai, and he is a great followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and always his poem is appreciated by them alayhim salam. He's saying, يا واقفا يبكي الطلول وينشدوا، بالله تهت وغاب عنك المرشد. كم تدعي حزنا وأنت مرفه، إن كنت محزونا فما لك ترقد. هلا بكيت على الحسين وأهله، هلا بكيت لمن بكاه محمد. فلقد بكته في السماء ملائكة زهر كرام راكعون وسجدوا وتضعضع الإسلام يوم مصابه فالدين يبكي فقده والسؤدد إذ جرعوه حرارة لا تبرد قتلوا الحسين وأثكلوا بسبطه هذا حسين بالسيوف مبضع مخضب بدمائه مستشهد عار بلا ثوب صريع في الثرى بين الحوافر والسنابك يخضد والطيبون بنوك قتلى حوله فوق التراب ضواحيا لا تلحد أنسيت قتل المصطفين بكربلاء حول الحسين ذبائحا لم يلحدوا بالطف حولي من يتامى إخوتي في الذل قد سلبوا القناع وجردوا يا جد قد منعوا الفرات وقتلوا عطشا فليس لهم هنالك مورد يا جد إن الكلب يشرب آمنا ريا ونحن عن الفرات نطرد يا جد قد أمسيت مما نالني ولما أعاني أقوم وأقعد يا جد لو أبصرتني ورأيتني والخد مني بالدماء مخدد يا جد ذا نحر الحسين مضرجون بالدم والجسم الشريف مجرد يا جد ذا صدر الحسين مربرون والخيل تنزل من عليه وتصعد يا جد ذا نجل الحسين مغلل ومغلل في قيدي ومصفد يرنو لوالدي ويرنو حاله وبنو ميت في العمى لم يهتدوا يا خالقي أنت الرقيب عليهم في فعلهم ظلما وإنك تشهد وتعج طورا بالنبي المصطفى يا والد الساقي علي المرتضى نال العدو بنا كما قد مهدوا يا أمي الزهراء قومي عبدي وجميع أملاك السماء لك تنجد هذا حبيبك بالنصول مقطع هذا مصاب ما أصيب لمثلي بشر من المخلوق إلا وإليكم من بعض النظام عساه فيه يسعد صلى الإله عليكم يا من دام طير في السماء يغرد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنتم حاج أكرم, جزاكم الله خير. Now inshallah we listen to Marsiya by our brother Al-Hassan. Bismillah. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Could we please recite a Surah Fatiha for the marhumin of the sponsors of tonight's majlis? Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
फर्द आमाल में बस अश्क हमारे होंगे, फर्द आमाल में बस अश्क हमारे होंगे, हश्र के दिन यही बख्शिश के सहारे होंगे, कब्र में चैन से सोएंगे आज़ादारे हुसैन, आँख खोलेंगे तो सर के किनारे होंगे, और हाफिला खुद की जानिब जो भरेगा अपना राह बर हज़रत अब्बास हमारे होंगे, अहले मातम को भला रोक सकेगा कोई, बाबे जन्नत पे जो ज़हरा के दुलारे होंगे, किन तमन्नाओं से 18 बरस ज़ैनब ने, कितने सदक़े रुक़े अकबर के उतारे होंगे, इसको एक माँ ही समझ सकती है बादे अकबर, कैसे दिन ज़ीस्त के लैला ने गुजारे होंगे, रोलो आज हाथों से सर पीट के असगर को रबाब, कल को रसी से बंदे हाथ तुम्हारे होंगे, फर्द आमाल में बस अश्क हमारे होंगे. सल्लल्लाहु
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنت أخي الحسن, جزاك الله خير. Now inshallah we will go to listen to the speech for tonight by our guest speaker Haj Husam Bazzi. to complete loudly salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وتوكل على الله وكفى بالله وكيلا. Put your trust in Allah, and Allah is all you need. Allah Azza wa Jal is the center, as we've been talking through the nights. When you have Allah's address in your heart, you have itmi'nan. It reduces anxiety. It creates calmness. It creates stillness in the heart. When you are in a situation of fear, you stay calm. From there, we talked about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And it says in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Surely, your prophet, your messenger, is the best exemplar for you. He is the best example. From there, we went. It says, أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ. Who is this person that has authority over you? We went further. And then when people rejected Rasulullah, and we said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَقَالَتِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَسْتَ مُرْسَلًا. And the ones who disbelieved, they said, you're not a messenger. The Prophet answered, says, قُلْ كَفَى بِاللَّهِ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكُمْ كَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكُمْ وَمَنْ عِنْدَهُ عِلْمُ الْكِتَابِ. Who is this person that has the knowledge of the book? And we determined what was Imam Ali alayhi salam, and it's known. So now you have Allah, you have the city of knowledge, and you have its gate. Imam Hussein alayhi salam rises to protect the gate. Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn. Look at the connection. Here's the hierarchy again, and you will see it again and again and again. The message does not change. There is no opposement between this imam and this imam. It's in unison. It's a straight path, and you will see it over and over and over. It does not change. We talked about how does someone get to this tranquility and an-nafs al-mutma'inna. How do you get to this itmi'nan? We talked about that yesterday. But today, we need to learn from what? And how to stay on, one more thing. Then we talked about how to stay on the path. We are here, there is the gate, then the path is what? Allah's fiqh. So between us and the gate, there's a road that we have to travel. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. We said this is Allah's rules and regulations. Now, how do we stay on this path? We also mentioned yesterday, and when you have an impulsive satanic thought, they said in the Quran, it says, تَذَكَّرُوا. They remember Allah. They become God conscious. When something of a temptation, food, lustfulness, anything that happens, business transactions, anything that happens to you, they what? They remember. And then they get an impulsive insight. And it's there, it's with them. This is the person who what? Has this taqwa, this God consciousness. وَتَزَوَّدُوا إِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ تَقْوَى. Take your provisions from this world. The best of provision is being God conscious. So now we've established that. So what now can we learn from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The Prophet had two names, two major names. And we said them the other day. As-Sadiqul Ameen. The honest one, the trustworthy one. Imagine they called you trustworthy when you walked by. Imagine they called you the honest one when you walked by. Can I just take those descriptions of myself and make you do that? Make you call me by those adjectives? Can I do that? The world is trying to do that now. But I'm sorry, it doesn't work. If you haven't earned it, it doesn't work. I cannot just walk around and tell you to call me honest. Or believe that I'm honest. Or believe that I'm trustworthy. It doesn't work that way. So that has to be earned. It has to be earned through your mannerism, through your character. Your personality has to be intact. But what happens when you are truthful? Like the Prophet, his enemies used to leave their amana with him. Think about that. You're this person's enemy. It's incredible. How does that happen? How do you earn that kind of trust with people, that people just want to be around you? And if they don't like you, they still respect you. So on that level, what is honesty? What is trustworthiness? How do I become trustworthy? And what happens when the world betrays me? What happens when I do a business deal and this person takes my portion? What happens when I get cheated on by another person? And the world doesn't offer me trust. It offers me distrust. How do I maintain my trusting emotional energy in my heart, and I broadcast that in my heart to the world? But I have a precautious mind. Play with me. Mess with me. Come. You want to play the game? I will play it with you. You want me to jump into the maze with you? I will jump in with you gladly. You're not going to beat me. But you're not going to what? Buy real estate in my heart. You can't enter here. Even if you want me to hate you, I'm not going to hate you. I'm too guarded around my heart. My heart is under my control. I will not allow you to enter. But if I get mad for Allah. If I get angry for Allah. I don't hate you. So when the Prophet, they used to throw what? Rocks and garbage. And he'd go and he'd say, Ya Allah, forgive my people. They don't know. How do you maintain that? When no one can touch your heart. No one can make you feel hatred, resentment. No one can do that. Imagine your heart is that guarded. But you have that trust. It's incredible when we get betrayed though, and the world turns on us. Where do you maintain this calmness, this tranquility? How does that happen? When the person turns on you, Muslim ibn Aqil, the whole community turned on him. Everyone was with him. Everyone gave him their bay'ah. They gave him their allegiance. They said, we are with you. Some narrations say over 100,000 people in Kufa. How does that happen? When the whole community turns on you. So the next time someone betrays you, think of Muslim ibn Aqil. So tonight, when we stay on the path, we're going to learn from the personalities of how to behave, how to act, how to take from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how to stay on the path. And how does Muslim apply that? And how does that happen when he's left all alone? And even the last person who finds out where he is betrays him. That's incredible. To learn from these things. Karbala is a university. Understand, it's not a fairy tale. We don't say these stories because, we just want to come together and rejoice. It's not a party. It's an algorithm for your heart. To take you to another level. That's what Karbala is. When you study Karbala, you become a Karbala'i. You become a lion. You become fierce in your heart that no one can touch you. And we're not talking just on the battlefield. We're talking day-to-day interaction. Because the heart has no gender. Female, male, it has no gender. Zainab stood in front of a tyrant. She wasn't scared. It's not about male, female. It's about knowing your role. It's about getting this to work right. The Quran has an algorithm in it for your heart. Karbala has an algorithm for you, for your heart. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
He has an algorithm for you. That algorithm allows you to taste faith. Just like food has a taste, faith has a taste. Understand that. Understand that when you touch faith, it's incredible what happens in here. This becomes abundant. Your heart becomes like an ocean. It's always giving. Versus the person whose heart is like a desert. So dry. It's hollow. No satisfaction. So now, what happens psychologically when you get betrayed by someone? I'm going to go into some neuroscience. Just bear with me just for a second. Okay? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now, when a person betrays you, when a person does something, so now you have to distrust them. When I think of a person that I know, there's already templates in my mind that I have of that person. And the closer they get to me, those templates, I allow them to come in closer and closer. I give them my secrets. I put everything in their heart. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, a mu'min, his heart is like a treasure chest full of secrets. But what happens when now they take my secret and they what? They broadcast it. And let's say it's something I didn't want anyone to know. That hurts. What happens psychologically? When I have an expectation, so here's how it works. What happens in the brain when you get betrayed? So there's something in your brain, it's called the hippocampus. Just follow with me just for a second. I have expectations of you. I have a certain expectation of how you would behave. What is trust? That expectation that I have of you is trust. I trust that you're not going to do A, B, C, and D. And even E. I trust you. Now that if I tell you my word, I don't have to look behind your words when you're talking to me. And you don't have to look behind my words when I'm talking to you. I give you that trust. I hand you that. That Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi says, he says, لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ خَانَ الْأَمَانَةِ. He's none of us who betrays the trust. So don't think that's easy. Don't think that to have that kind of character and personality when you betray someone, don't think it's light, because watch what I'm going to show you next. What's going to happen when you really hurt someone. When you betray someone's trust, you're taking it to another level. And watch what's going to happen. So now, I have an expectation of you. There's a part of my brain that's tracking expectations. I have a desired expectation of you. I give you my trust. When I do that, I'm now what? Giving you information. You know what's happening inside my brain? Part of my brain is tracking that. That's the hippocampus. It tracks mismatches and matches. If everything matches, if I trust you and you don't betray my trust, what happens? Everything's great. Positive emotion is released. What happens when you're getting match, mismatch? And now I hear something from someone, and now you betrayed me. And I go to you and I tell you, why did you do this? I trusted you. Negative emotion begins there. That tracking system of your brain, it maps on the real world to your expectations. That's the mapping system of the brain. And that's tracked by that little part in your brain. And as soon as I get a mismatch, your subcortical areas of your brain disinhibit. They're active, but now they're ignited. And you know what neurotransmitters are released into your brain? And hormones? You got two major neurotransmitters. Dopamine, serotonin. Dopamine and serotonin are in charge of what? Anxiety. emotional instability, sadness, well-being. You think when you're actually betraying someone or you're lying to someone, you think it's a small little thing? You think it's something light? You don't know what you're doing inside that person. You don't know what you're activating inside. Now watch this, take it further. Oxytocin is reduced. Oxytocin is the trust factor. That's how I trust you. Empathy. Watch, I'll give you an example of empathy. And bear with me just for a second. There's a hadith. Try to remember. Give me a second. That tricked you. There is no hadith. But that's an emotional connection now. So watch this. What happened in your heart? Check yourself, just for a second. Check yourself right now. I'm sitting here and it's getting more awkward and more awkward and more awkward. And the further I extend that silence, what happens to you? You're like, some of you, you're like, man, this guy blew it. Man, like, Allah yasa'adak, you know? And some of you are like, okay, come on, just say it. It's right there. And you're with me. And it started here, by the way. It started with the women, right? Allahumma salli. See what? Because women are usually more empathetic. Okay? But that's how we connect with other people. I just give you right there. That's how we connect. That's oxytocin. That's something that you want me to say it. It's like a little kid who's trying to say something and they're not getting it out. I felt like a little kid in front of you, right? Come on, habibi, aini, come on. Okay, see what happens? You're empathizing with me. You're with me. You're connecting to me. That's how it works. So now, what happens when that distrust happens and you betray me? That chemical is reduced. Go further. Now what happens? Go on the other side. There's another hormone, cortisol. Cortisol can kill you, bottom line. It can literally kill you. So now when you go into cortisol, you know what happens? That's part of the fight or flight system. The fight or flight system, when it activates, it releases cortisol. And if you want to take it further, and now let's say take it for a longer level, you have your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal pathway. What happens there? That's extended stress. If you can't turn off your stress system, then you have endorphins that are in charge of what? Your painkillers. This is a natural painkiller. And now you can't what? Cope with stress. And that's also what? Reduced. So you think it's easy when you tell a lie? You think, look at your chemical streams. Look at your chemical system. Look how Allah has designed all that. You think it's light? You think it's easy that you just I just say something. It's okay. It's a white lie. And I train myself on that. Don't fool yourself. Don't. As-sadiqul ameen. Live by these what factors and stay on a path with that. That's what happens. When you begin to do that and when you begin to elevate yourself, what happens? Allah says, takes you to another level, pushes you to another level. That if there's nothing in this world or in the universe that can encompass me but the heart of what? A mu'min. Think about that. Think about what you own then. That security that's in the heart is from Allah directly. That Imam Ali alayhi salam, when you get to this point and you are now trusted through your honesty, because honesty creates trust. That Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَعَلَ الذِّكْرِ جِلَاءً لِلْقُلُوبِ. He says, Allah has made His remembrance a softness, a calmness, an enlightenment for your heart. It's the medicine that you need. That when you go into sujood, what happens to your heart? Your heart is in sujood. When you go into ruku', your heart is in ruku'. You're connected to Allah. Now what happens on the other side? When Muslim is walking in the lands of Karbala, and in the lands of what? Kufa. And now everyone has turned on him. The whole town has turned on him. The people that all are there, that paid allegiance, now you wake up the next day and everyone is against you. And now you're walking by yourself. And there's no one there. Some of us, I'm telling you, these days we are like that. No matter how many people are around us, we are alone on the inside. And that's so true. I get the calls. You get sometimes a call, and it's like this person tells you you're the last person I'm going to talk to. That's scary. I say, Ya Allah, help me. I don't know what to do. Help me. But look where this person's gotten to. Why? Because the world has done them wrong. And that distrust is activated. And the heart can't handle it. The anxiety is there. They're connected now to that. And that's become part of their wiring. So now, as Muslim is doing that, and now he finds what? Some refuge. He needs some water. Doesn't have water. Imagine again your whole town. Imagine right now, you here. You're coming to this masjid, and you come here and they kick you out. We don't want you here. And now they put your name on the internet. It's like this person is A, B, C, and D. Imagine how you'd feel. You can leave. Muslim couldn't leave. He couldn't leave. But how do you maintain that trust? And you maintain what? Consciousness. Towards who? Towards Allah. How do you stay on the path when you're tested like that? When the whole world betrays you. Everything around you betrays you. And now you're feeling all these things. But what gives you the calmness in the heart? What did we say? إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَعَلَ الذِّكْرِ جِلَاءً لِلْقُلُوبِ. Now watch how Imam Ali continues. What happens when you have this side? Yesterday, we said, when the person goes to the wrong side, ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة صم بكم عمي فهم لا يرجعون. They cannot even go back. When the heart is sealed, it's done. There's no going back. So now, what happens on the other side? What happens to your heart? And it says even in the Quran, قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. Hearts, they can't see, they're blind. What you see is from here. لا تراه العيون بمشاهدة العيان ولكن تدركه القلوب بحقائق الإيمان. You see Allah through this. It's not the naked eye. So now what happens? Imam Ali gives three things. What happens to your faculties? What happens to your hearing? What happens to your sight? When you have Allah in your heart, what happens to your heart? And then what happens to your mind? Here's what Imam Ali alayhi salam gives. Look at one side. ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة. This side, he says, إن الله جعل الذكر جلاء للقلوب. So the first thing, when you have dhikr in your heart, when you have Allah's address in your heart, what happens? It becomes calm, soft, collected. Second, he says, then he hears past his deafness. He hears past his deafness. He sees past his blindness, and his heart will obey. Obey what? Obey what? What is meant by you hear past your deafness? Everybody hears. But only some people hear Allah Azza wa Jalla. That when they hear it, what? It hits the heart. وَإِذَا سَمِعُوا مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ تَرَى أَعْيُنُهُمْ تَفِيضُ مِنَ الدَّمْعِ مِمَّا عَلِمُوا مِنَ الْحَقِّ. That they hear it, and what? Their heart, what? Is in submission. What is it meant by when your heart and your eyes and your ears are open? You hear past your deafness, that's insight. You see things. You hear things that others do not see. Your attentional focus into the world is completely different. You see the cup, what? Half full or half empty? You don't even see that. Everything, if even the cup is just what? Fully empty, you say, Alhamdulillah, I have a cup. Even if it's broken, Alhamdulillah, I have glass. I can trade it for something. I will always look at something positively. There's nothing that can touch your heart. That's when you have Allah in your heart. And then the last thing Imam Ali alayhi salam says, he says, then Allah is between him and his wit. Meaning now Allah is in between you and what? Your thoughts. Allah is swimming with you now. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَحُولُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَقَلْبِهِ. Know that Allah intervenes between you and your heart. Let's say you're going a certain speed and you're about to hit a red light. And if you cross that red light, you're going to get hit by a car. Allah intervenes for that second. Says, you know what? Just gives you that little thing and just says, take your foot off the gas just for a second. You never notice that. Because why? You chose to have the address in your heart. Allah becomes your protector. This is the incredible part of faith. When you have that, it's incredible what you have. It's incredible what touches the heart. So now Muslim, he goes and he finds what? Refuge with an older lady. She takes him in, she gives him water. Her son comes home. Again, look at the betrayal. One after another, after another. But he never recants his position. He doesn't move. Because a lot of us can't handle that kind of pressure. We will not be able to handle that. That situation is too dire. So now the son comes home. Finds out that it's what? Muslim. Now he sells his akhirah for what? The dunya. Choices. See how choices work? One choice. Hur made one choice. Look where it took him. This kid made one choice. Look where it took him. One choice. One simple choice you make can damn you. And one simple choice you make can take you to the highest levels of heaven. So now, Muslim, he finds out. Now they attack. He goes to Ibn Ziyad and he tells him, so-and-so Muslim ibn Aqil is here. Now, they couldn't enter because Muslim was valid. He was a valid fighter. He was a warrior. And he was known for that. Every time they would walk in, he would take one of them. Take the other person. Take the third person. Then what? They finally decided to do what? Set it on fire. So he had to come out. Then they started hitting him with what? With the arrows. He got weak. He got caught. He got captured. Now, what do you say when you're captured? Do you sit there and you say, I give up? Muslim, read. Please read. I don't have time. Read to what he would say to Ibn Ziyad. Read how he stood and he didn't care. What's going to happen to me doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But how does the heart do that if it's not connected to Allah? How? You know when the knees buckle? It's because the heart is not intact. So now Muslim, they literally, the last moments, they take him on the top of what? The building. What does he say? To me, just imagine like you're facing death. Death is right there. Just imagine that. Death is coming to you and you know you're going to die. What do you say? How do you face that? How do you face that moment? How do you do that? How does that happen? When it says, وَتَمَنَّوْا الْمَوْتِ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Long for death if you were truthful. Muslim was longing for death because he knew where he was. This is where you want to be on your deathbed. You want to know where you are. You want to know how your heart is intact, that you're longing to leave, that you don't want to be here. That in the Quran it says, وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا. And that moment when the soul is ripped out of the body. Some souls, Allah says, by the angels that rip out the soul violently. And Allah swears by the angels that pull out the soul softly. It's like sniffing a flower. Versus taking pliers and pulling out your fingernails. I'm sorry to be that graphic. But think about that. Are you ready for that moment? Are you? You're ready to go? That Muslim asks for what? What does he ask? He says, I have a debt. Please pay off my debt. Then he asks to do what? What does he ask? What does he ask to do? Literally ask two rak'ah prayer. Think about that. Think about your own prayer. The Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, رِكْعَةٌ فِي دُنْيَاكُمْ أَحَبُّ لِيَ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ وَمَا فِيهَا. One rak'ah in this world is more fulfilling for me than heaven and what is in it. Think about your prayer. Think about when you pray. Think about the Quran. That when Muslim, they literally take his life. Look how he leaves. That's how you want to leave the world. Don't leave it in any other state. Leave it in a state of iman. Leave like that. But this is how you stay on the road. Don't betray people. Have a truthful tongue. And I'll finish with this. Luqman was asked. Surah Luqman. He was asked. He says, how did you get to this level of wisdom? He gave him 6 things. The first thing, you know what it was? He says, sidqul lisan. To have a truthful tongue. Don't lie. If you can't lie, if you feel like you need to lie, just be silent. Just don't say anything. Learn. And I promise you, you do that for 2-3 years, I swear to you, no one can stand in front of you. Because this thing turns on. And when you have that in your heart, and you plant Allah's address, and then you go to Rasulullah, and you look at the gate, and you say, I'm not going to do that. You submit there. And once you do that, you have the world. You have that calmness when the fear enters. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
On the day of Ashura, it said Muslims spent the whole night worshipping Allah and praying to Him. He was constantly remembering Allah and preparing himself to meet Allah. It's as if I can hear him in the house of Tawha saying, Ilahi, من ذا الذي ذاق حلاوة محبتك فرام منك بدلا. My God, who is the one who tasted the sweetness of your love and then wanted another in the place of you? ومن ذا الذي أنس بقربك فابتغى عنك حولا. And who is the one who felt the warmth of being close to you and wanted to be far away from you? He kept on praying to Allah. He kept on saying tasbih, tahleel. He prayed knowing that tomorrow was his last stand. But what breaks the heart is Muslim. What breaks the heart of Muslim is knowing that Imam al-Hussein is all alone, walking towards his death. What breaks him is knowing his young daughter Hamida will have to see her uncle Imam al-Hussein slaughtered on the plains of Karbala after knowing her father was just killed in Kufa. Muslim prayed through the night until the son of Tawa comes into the house. He finds out that Muslim is in their house. He quickly leaves the house and goes to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad and says to him, Ya Ubaydullah, give me the reward, for I have found for you Muslim ibn Aqil. Look what happens. The sun rises. Muslim ibn Aqil was now ready to meet his Lord. He began to hear the hooves of the horses and the clings of the sword. فقال يا نفس اخرجي إلى الموت الذي ليس له محيص. O soul, go towards the death that no one will escape. It's now time for Muslim to meet Amir al-Mu'mineen. He picked up his armor, he put it on, he took out his sword. It's now time for a Muslim to meet the enemy. The horsemen and the soldiers came towards the house of Tawa. Muslim feared they would burn the house down, so he opened the door and charged the men. He went down to the men and fought them like the lion that he was. I can only imagine him resembling Ali ibn Abi Talib as he destroyed the armies in Siffin and Nahrawan. He came out to the enemy saying, هو الموت فاصنع ويكما أنت صانع فأنت بكأس الموت لا شك جارع فصبرا لأمر الله جل جلاله فحكم قضاء الله بالخلق ذائع. This is death and death has come to me and death is coming closer to you every day. I'm the Lion of God. You're going to see me on this day, and my light will live on while your light will go out. He fought like his uncle Amir al-Mu'mineen. His rage was fearful, his eyes like an eagle. The angel of death was perched over Kufa on that day until the enemies couldn't take any more of Muslim ibn Aqil. They went on top of the houses of Kufa, began throwing stones and boulders on Muslim ibn Aqil, just the same way that they threw rocks on Imam al-Hussein on the day of Ashura. Muslim was being stoned alive in Kufa. Some were throwing spears, others were shooting arrows, others were throwing fire at Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim was being hit from every angle and was being pressured from every side until his body was full of wounds. He wasn't able to fight anymore. It reminds me when Imam al-Hussein was standing on the plains of Karbala and he was hit with a 3-pronged arrow. He fell to the ground. A man comes to Imam al-Hussein and hits him. Imam al-Hussein was on the plains of Karbala. all of a sudden the men come towards Imam al-Hussein, and from every angle they start stabbing and hitting Imam al-Hussein. He leaned against the wall. Muslim ibn Aqil, He leaned against the wall. The men gathered in front of Muslim ibn Aqil and started to stone Muslim. A man came from behind Muslim ibn Aqil and he hit him. Muslim then fell to the ground and was captured. When they finally had Muslim ibn Aqil, they dragged him to the palace of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. At the door of the palace, Muslim was put to wait outside. As he waited, he saw a container full of cold water. So he said, "Spooni min hadha al-ma'." Oh people, give me some of that water. The man over him looked at him and said, "Do you see how cold that water is, Muslim? You won't drink of it until you die from the thirst, until you drink from the water of hell." This reminds me of Imam al-Hussein. As he laid on the plains of Karbala, a man comes to him and says, "Ya Hussein, do you see the water of the Euphrates River? You're not going to drink of it until you drink from the waters of hell." Until Muslim sat and put his back on the wall. He put his back on the wall. A servant comes to him and gives him a cup of water to drink. He puts it near his lips and tries to drink, but his blood mixes with the water. He tried 3 times to drink, but every time the blood would mix with the water. In his last attempt, his teeth fell into the water. He knew it was his destiny to die thirsty like Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. So he said, "كأنما نفسك اختارت لها طشاء لما درت أن سيقضي الصبح عطشانا." It's as if your soul has picked that you die thirsty, O Muslim. Why? When it knew Hussein was going to die thirsty on the plains of Karbala, Muslim was brought in front of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He stood in front of him proud to be who he was. He wasn't scared of Ubaydullah and spoke out in front of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad in his own castle until he said, "وَأَنَا أَرْجُو اللَّهَ أَنْ يَرْزُقَنِي الشَّهَادَةَ عَلَى يَدِ شَرِّ بَرِيَّتِهِ." And I pray that I become a martyr at the hands of the worst of God's creatures. So Ibn Ziyad said, "Then I will be the one that kills you." Ubaydullah asked his man, who was the man who hit Muslim and captured him. One of the men said, "I did, O Amir." His name was Bakr. His name was Bakr. He said to him, "I'm the one who captured Muslim ibn Aqil." He said to him, "So your prize is that you will take him to the top of the palace and behead him." So they took Muslim to the top of the palace. Ajarakumullah. The man had his sword ready to kill Muslim. Muslim requested to pray his last 2 rak'at of salat. He prayed his salat. When he finished the salat, some narrations say he turned towards the direction of Imam al-Hussein and said, "Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Rasulillah." Then Muslim was taken and his head was cut and he was thrown off the edge of the palace. His body hit the ground in Kufa. His body was disrespected. The body of Muslim was disrespected by the men. It was thrown off the palace in Kufa. When the news of the death of Muslim came to the Imam cried for the loss of Muslim, and the woman cried for Muslim ibn Aqil. He went to the woman's tent, and this is the tragedy that breaks the heart. Listen what happens. He called Sayyidah Zainab and said, "Sister, where's Hamida? Hamida is the young daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil. Hamida is the young daughter of Zabir al-Hussein." When Sayyidah Zainab brought Hamida to the Imam sat in his place and placed her on his lap. He began to wipe his head over the head of Hamida, and his tears were flowing from his eyes. She said to him, look what she said. She said, "Uncle, why do I see you cry? Is there anything that happened to my father? Because only the heads of the orphans are white." What is he to tell her? Your father was killed thirsty, or that he was thrown off the edge of the palace. Look what he said. He said to her, "Oh, Hamida, I am your father, and my children are your siblings, Ya Hamida." لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلى يا حبيب. رحم الله من ذكر قائم آل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Come forward, please. Give a room for the people from behind to join us. Just come forward. Come right here. We have a room right here.